Hey there, and welcome to Google Cloud Next on Air. Today, we'll be talking about how public data can help data scientists, researchers, public health agencies, and others combat the novel 2019 coronavirus, also known as COVID-19, and help flatten the curve of cases around the globe. My name is Shane Glass. I'm a developer advocate here at Google Cloud covering business intelligence, and I'm also the tech lead for the Cloud Public Datasets Program. I'm thankful to be joined today by my co-presenter, Javier. Javier, you want to take a minute to introduce yourself?
Sure. Hi, everybody. My name is Javier de la Torre, and I'm the co-founder of Carto.
Awesome. Thanks, Javier. So here's a quick outline of what we intend to cover today. So let's start with a quick overview of Google Cloud's Public Datasets Program. We currently offer more than 180 public machine learning ready datasets available in our products, both as structured datasets in our serverless data warehouse BigQuery and unstructured datasets like satellite imagery in Google Cloud Storage. And we work hard to ensure that each of these datasets are as up to date as possible according to the requirements of each individual dataset. Sometimes this means real-time updates, like our cryptocurrency blockchains, and sometimes this means annual updates, like US Census Bureau boundaries. We're also working with our partners, team members, and customers to identify new data sets of interest that can expand our catalog as well. So ultimately, what does this mean for you? There's no need to worry about ETL for some of the most high-value public data sets in the world. We preload these core data sets and it makes life easier for the data analyst and data scientist by reducing time to get started and helping you unlock new insights in your existing data. Now, as the COVID-19 pandemic truly began to spread across the globe, we recognized the need for expanded access to analyze data that documents the spread of the virus and its impacts. In March of 2020, we announced our COVID-19 Public Datasets Program, which now contains more than 20 datasets. To make it as easy as possible for researchers and data scientists to combat COVID-19, these datasets are preloaded into BigQuery and continually updated to reduce the time to analyze the data. In addition to the free access we provide for all public datasets, queries against COVID-19 public datasets are provided at no cost through September 15th to maximize the ability for researchers to fight COVID-19. These include datasets detailing COVID-19 confirmed cases and deaths around the world, like those available from the New York Times, the Italian Department of Civil Protection, and the European Center for Disease and Prevention and Control. Datasets that contain information about how governments are acting to combat COVID-19, such as the Oxford COVID-19 Government Response Tracker that describes policy actions that have been put into place to mitigate the impacts of COVID-19, and datasets that can contextualize outbreaks, such as the US Census Bureau's American Community Survey. We think this can truly make a difference in flattening the curve. Let's pause here for a second for those unfamiliar with BigQuery. BigQuery is Google Cloud's highly scalable enterprise data warehouse solution. It's a fully managed and serverless, offers real-time insights from streaming data, has built-in ML out of the box, and has a high-speed, in-memory BI engine for faster reporting and analysis. BigQuery is designed to make data analysts and data scientists more productive, and it's a secure offering that offers data encryption by default, both in transit and at rest, to ensure that your data are protected. Okay, so let's get back to the public data to combat COVID-19. Now, we believe that the COVID-19 public data sets we are hosting, combined with the high-powered analysis platforms like BigQuery and Carto, can help support the mitigation of the impact of COVID-19 in three primary ways. The first of these is informing individual decision-making, and in my opinion, this might be the most important. This is critical to slowing the spread of the virus by helping individuals understand the importance of social distancing, the importance of wearing a mask, and other safeguards. It can also help researchers and public health officials better understand which policy actions are having a positive impact. Now, the second of these use cases is analyzing the second-order public health impacts of the pandemic. Secondary public health impacts of the virus include potential food insecurity among employees in industries that are most likely to be displaced by the COVID-19 impact on the economy, according to the public health officials we've worked with. Now, these data sets are typically used by public health officials to identify people and regions that are dealing with impacts of the pandemic other than the virus itself. Data sets such as Google's Community Mobility Reports, the Census Bureau's American Community Survey, and global health and population trends from the World Bank are crucial to help public health officials better understand and ensure that the full public health impact of the pandemic is mitigated. And finally, we're helping inform individual economic decision making, such as helping governments make an informed, data driven decision about reopening economies. Combining these data sets, such as data about COVID-19 cases from USA Facts, the Oxford University Government Policy Response Tracker, aggregated hospital capacity from the American Hospital Association, and Geotab's commercial mobility impacts, government officials and businesses can make an informed decision about the risks and benefits of reopening their economies. This can help states, such as the 5 Western states that make up the Western States Pact, take a data-driven approach to measuring their published criteria for reopening economies, including the ability of hospitals to handle a new wave of patients and protect those most vulnerable to COVID-19. So let's take a look at some examples of how Google Cloud's customers are already seeing success using COVID-19 public datasets in the 3 categories we've laid out. The first of these is the state of Oklahoma. State officials in Oklahoma collaborated with teams from across Google Cloud to develop and launch a Looker dashboard that helps keep their citizens informed of the current status. This helps reinforce the importance of public health efforts by providing citizens transparency into the decision-making process and the impacts of these decisions. The second of these is analyzing the second-order public health impacts of the pandemic. Descartes Labs has built and widely published an analysis that shows the reduction of pollution and other emissions within areas that have high number of COVID-19 cases and that are currently under stay-at-home or safer-at-home orders. And the final example is from the Emergent Alliance, a data analytics coalition that's spearheaded by Rolls-Royce. The Emergent Alliance is a response from a growing number of global brands who believe in using the power of big data for the greater good. By combining private and public data sets, the Emergent Alliance aims to accelerate and smooth economic recovery from the COVID-19 crisis. Their stated mission is to help governments, businesses, and communities help each other in the recovery and provide better insights through better data that provide better outcomes for everybody. Now, a lot of this amazing work is only possible because of the powerful analytics platforms that are available. Now, one of these is Carto, a leading spatial analytics company headquartered in New York City. I'm joined today all the way from Madrid, Spain, by their founder and chief strategy officer, Javier de la Torre, to talk a little more about how they are helping their customers leverage public data to combat COVID-19. Javier?
Thanks, Shane. I'm pretty excited to be here today collaborating with Google on COVID-19 mitigation. We have seen an explosion on usage of maps and location intelligence to fight COVID-19. It's like the entire population had got almost a one-on-one course on maps and mobility recently. And that's because I like to say there's never been a more important time to geography. Understanding the geography of the pandemic and the mobility of the population is one of the few tools that we have right now available to fight COVID. At Carto, we have been pretty busy over the last months at the beginning of the pandemic, working with different governments and organizations on the response to COVID. And BigQuery has been a fundamental part, to handle very large spatial data sets on these use cases. But before showing you that, I just want to give you a little quick intro about Carto. Well, so Carto is a location intelligence platform. We help organizations analyze and visualize location data. Let me tell you a little bit about what it means. One way that I like to explain what location intelligence is by explaining the difference between understanding where and understanding why. If you want to look at where there's more COVID-19 cases, you will likely use a BI tool, such as Looker. But if you want to understand why there are more cases on one place versus another, if you want to understand, what are the characteristics of those places that makes them more vulnerable, to COVID, then you need to create what we call a spatial model. And for doing that, you need Carto. So with Carto, think about creating spatial models that help you understand why something happens somewhere. Now, we provide these capabilities in a product with different interfaces. We work with data scientists, analysts, and developers. And more important, I think very relevant in this case, Carto, we like to say, comes also with batteries included. Most of our users use Carto with Data Observatory, which is our repository of spatial data, things like demographics, mobility, financial data, that is useful for doing a lot of this analysis. A lot of these data sets, we've been collaborating with the BigQuery public datasets, to make them available to the BigQuery community. Now, more widely, Carto and Google Cloud Platform provides a full solution of what we call a next generation spatial data infrastructure. With components like the AI platform and BigQuery, Google Cloud Platform, together with Carto, provides a great new way of thinking about the spatial analysis. And we have been leveraging it, like we said, a lot during COVID-19. So let me show you a few use cases. So the first one, as we were describing, combining location data with COVID-19 cases, government can actually create what we call risk models. They can do risk analysis to understand which areas are more vulnerable, depending on things like demographics, like age, to have a bigger effect COVID-19, right? So these type of analysis are possible by combining a lot of the data sets that saying you were talking before. Now, another use case that I like a lot, you put it, like before very well. There's been an incredible pressure on governments to explain the reasons why they are closing up or open up, those lockdowns that have been affecting so many people. And in order to do that, they had to be very responsible in the way that they publicize, the data and how they explain the stories behind it. So helping, to tell those stories and give transparency to data makes it way more effective, and makes it, citizens understands the importance of those measurements. Of course, another typical Kala use case that we've been seeing is associating human mobility with changes on the economy. We know, when lockdowns happens, the economy shrinks. So trying to understand the correlation between these two factors, is a pretty important factor, and can help you to understand and mitigate the economic impact of COVID-19. The next one, it's even a more practical things. This situation has made us have to deal about how many people can we fit on a beach, while maintaining secure distance, right? So all those type of analysis also require a lot of data crunching and data analytics. We see that particular, in cases, where we work with governments on understanding the importance of the lockdowns, but also we're seeing quite a lot on the private sector. So understanding the impact of a particular retailer of those lockdowns in the different countries where they're operating. So those are also a very classical cases where you're mixing data that you have on the public data sets together with your own enterprise data in this case to see how COVID-19 is affecting your business. Lastly, I think also something that we've seen and we've been working a lot is understanding and preparing, working on data around mobility inside offices. As you know, more businesses are opening up, and we hear more and more, the need for understanding, mobility indoors, right? So if you track movements of employees while at the office, you can obtain reports like who's been in contact with whom, like within 3 meters or in the same room, which parts of the office produce more contacts, how can you adapt timetables to reduce those contacts? Well, as you can see, there's many use cases where you can apply spatial analytics together with the spatial data, like the one that is available on the BigQuery public data sets, to fight on COVID-19. So what do you think, Shane?
I think it's a great idea. Why don't we look at some demos? I'll go first. I'll show a couple queries in BigQuery, and we can come back to you and show how we can visualize those.
Sounds great.
Okay, now let's take a look at some examples of how COVID-19 data can be helped used to flatten the curve. We'll start here by looking at COVID-19 cases by county across the US and joining demographic data from the Census Bureau's American Community Survey. The demo that we're looking at here gives us cases and deaths by US county and also a litany of different demographic factors, including total population, population density, income, age, gender, and race. This data can be used to help contextualize an outbreak and better understand some potential factors that are in play. We can also use it to create a dashboard in Looker, the newest member of Google Cloud's family for business intelligence. This allows us to visualize data, drill down by county or state, and provide contextual visualizations around it. Now let's take a look at our next demo, which is COVID-19 cases normalized by county population, in this case per 100,000. Now we can quickly run this query as well, and we'll get a result for the number of cases within the last day by US county. But now, Javier, what if we wanted to visualize a query like this? Could you show us what that would look like?
BigQuery is known for handling large amounts of data, so visualizing large amounts of data sounds something that very much needed. So for example, this data set from New York City and their taxi trips that is available on BigQuery Public Data has around 131 million GPS points. We have found a way to visualize this, and here is a demo of that. This is your 131 million points visualized on a map. And as you can see, as I zoom in, you can see how the maps gets loaded progressively until if I zoom it's enough, each of these points represents one of the records on that table. And this is possible because we process the data into what we call tile sets. And we've been working over the last few months to generate these tile sets directly from BigQuery. And we have a solution for it. So you can see now we can progress not hundreds of millions, we can process billions of records in very, very effectively using BigQuery. So using this tile sets generation directly from a query without moving the data out of it, you can get like data sets like this one, 300 million buildings in the US, all the buildings in the United States, and directly served from within BigQuery. So if you're interested to use this type of technology for tile set generation, we have an open beta program, and you can get access by sending us an email to BigQuery@Carto. We think this will be pretty relevant to people who are working with very large spatial data sets.
That's awesome, Javier. Thanks for the demo. I personally can't wait to use Carto to dig in a little deeper to figure out why things are happening where they're happening. Okay, well, that's all for us here today at Google Cloud Next on Air. If you'd like to learn more about how you can use public data to combat COVID-19, check out the following resources. You can check out more specific examples of how data science and public data can support public health efforts to fight COVID-19 by watching our Cloud on Air webinar from May titled Data Science for Public Health, Working with Public COVID-19 Datasets. You can also check out the full catalog of public datasets available on Google Cloud by visiting the Google Cloud Marketplace using the short link on the right. Additionally, there are a number of other Cloud Next on-air sessions talking about how Google Cloud is helping support the response to COVID-19. There's so many to choose from the Industrial Insight session on planning for retail's new priorities, hosted by our VP of Retail, Carrie Tharp, to the breakout session, Data-Driven Responses to COVID-19 using Looker and BigQuery, hosted by my friend and colleague, Leah Jarrett, who runs the product demonstration for Looker. In particular, I recommend checking out Ashima Gupta's talk on reimagining healthcare in COVID-19 era, and Mike Daniels' session on reimagining the public sector in the COVID-19 era. Both of these talks do a really great job of expanding on the concepts we covered today. That's all for us, and thanks for watching Google Cloud Next on Air.